Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. American, all the ships at sea. Flash, let's go to press. We have an announcement. We have two announcements from Viewpoint. The 5th annual Princess Tea will be held on Saturday. That's this coming Saturday, June the 7th, from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Fellowship Center of Lincoln Christian Church. It's a great deal for young ladies aged 3 to 12 and their adult guests. They're invited to come dressed in their Sunday best or wear princess attire. That might be a little overused. Something about that. But anyway, the event will include special foods and beverages, entertainment for the little tykes, and decorations in keeping with this year's theme, Under the Sea. Tickets are just $10 a piece, and that's not too bad for this thing for these youngsters. And they're available at the church office during the regular hours, and seating is limited. So contact Julie King at 314-9413. Number 2, the 2014 Lincoln Community High School Royal Grand Prom March and the Red Carpet Runway. They're available on WLCNonline.com and the WLCN 96.3 FM Facebook page for your viewing pleasure. And a special thanks to Jeanette G. Well, try that, Mrs. Busby. Jeanette G. Gier Photography.
No, I'm just going to let you sink or swim. I can't do that.
I just went down. And Logan County member Pat O'Neill. Sorry about that, Patrick. And if you'd like to view or purchase one of these photos or videotapes, please stop at Shagar Photography on Sangamon Street in Lincoln. And the number is 671-9526. Well, now.
There, we got that taken care of.
We got the business taken care of. Viewpoint, program personalities, politicians, and perspectives. We sure have too.
I have to say, though, that I have a kudo, okay?
Oh, well.
Please and thank you.
What do you think, Mr. Ash? Oh, well, she's 50% owner of the show, so go right ahead.
Okay. Miss Marla Williams, who teaches 5th grade at Northwest School in Lincoln. Yes, right. Has been for a number of years. Did, in fact, call our friend Mr. Gossett and invite him to speak to her class. She is, of course, wanting them to understand more about the Second World War and about D-Day in particular. And
which will be here 2 days from today, Friday, June the 6th.
So it's a day to put out our flags again.
Yeah.
And Bill is going to go talk to those 5th graders about that era. And I think that's nice that she recognized that he was so capable of doing that, for one thing. And I think it's nice that the kids be reminded what it's all about. If we don't know where we've been, we can't imagine where we're going.
Yes, I accepted that, Judith, and folks out there in the Etherland with great pleasure. Primarily, if not the sole reason, is that our youngsters are not being taught enough history today. And 70 years ago, this coming Friday on June the 6th, thousands upon thousands of boys, men, stormed ashore there, or tried to. Many of them didn't get much further than the side of the ship. And our youngsters need to know about this. So I certainly was not in the invasion. I went in later. But these youngsters, I'm happy to have the opportunity to talk to them about that, and I appreciate Marla's getting in touch with me. Which reminds me, the honor flight coming up again. We have another honor flight going out of Springfield, folks, Tuesday, June the 10th. Would urge you to go down to Springfield. Get there around 7 o'clock. You'll be there plenty early, but you'll need to do that in order to get a seat. And it's pretty long-standing. If you don't have, you take your own chair. It's a great event for these, and I'm happy to see that we're bringing on Vietnam veterans this time. Quite a few, in fact, which, of course, means that the World War II guys are leaving us pretty fast, and our numbers are dwindling daily by big numbers. And now we're bringing the Korean veterans, and apparently they didn't have enough Korean veterans to fill it out. So they've gone to Vietnam, boys, so I'm sure glad for that. So,
you bet.
I think program, of course, is personalities and perspectives. We have the two right here with our guests. And so why don't you introduce our guest officially this morning?
Well,
she doesn't need much introduction.
Not so much. Betsy Pech has been a teacher for 35 years. She's going to retire now, and she's been up at Hartsburg-Emden for the bulk of that time, far and away. And seen a lot of kids who are busy in agriculture at home and studying more about it as they grow older. And many, I'm sure, have taken up programs of that sort as they go on into college. I'm sure that's the truth. So they're going to have a roast and roast you up there. Are you scared at all, Betsy?
No, just I guess you could say anxiously awaiting. I've heard bits and pieces about what I could expect, but nobody wants to cough up any details right now, so I'm just going to leave it as that. That's fine and dandy.
Well, if they're looking at you and tee-heeing, you want to believe that they've got something going for you.
Oh, yeah, all I have to do is mention it, and a big smile usually comes on somebody's face, so, I'll just leave it as that. I've been busy enough that I don't really think that much about it. I know it's in good hands, so that's just fine with me.
Well, Judith, I thought of Betsy at the annual Ag Breakfast about the Christian University, and Betsy was a couple tables over, and we're talking, and all of a sudden I found a tree in the forest, realizing it was marked that she'd be retiring, and I thought, well, for goodness sakes, get her on this program because she has had a major impact on youngsters in this community, and she's done a yeoman's job up there at Hartsburg-Emden, and the reputation of her youngsters in judging contests and speaking contests and so forth. And mind you, Betsy, Judith and I, we like to talk about the great small communities we have surrounding Lincoln, and we do have some gems. And Hartsburg-Emden is another example, and that's educational system up there. Those kids are known all around for their abilities year in and year out. So I just thought it appropriate we come up here and do a little smoke for Betsy and thank her for her years of service at Hartsburg-Emden and for the major impact she's had on lots of youngsters.
Agriculture is my passion, and I grew up at New Berlin. That's my hometown, west of Springfield, and New Berlin was at the time a small community, farm community, and so it's been my, I guess, destination to stay in small communities. And so I have, my first teaching job was over at Wapella, north of Clinton, small community, and then the Hartsburg-Emden position opened up, and it has been an excellent fit for me. Like I said, I've been there 29 years. I couldn't ask for better support. Not just from the administration. My administrators throughout my career have been wonderful. They've been good to work with, but the community itself has just been opened their arms, let me in. They've just been wonderful, just great. I know, and I've had people ask me here, especially in the last few weeks, being a female ag teacher, what that was like, or opening doors, and in reality I did open some doors. When I decided in college to become an ag teacher, because I've told my students it wasn't on my radar screen when I was in high school.
Really?
No, it was not. I was one of those students or kids that I want to be a vet. Okay, and
Interesting.
Yeah, and until you decide that physics and chemistry. Chemistry, I'm okay. Physics, we didn't agree with, and I needed physics. So
I think there's a lot of us out there would have some understanding of that.
So when it came to the point where physics and we were just gonna go hand in hand together, then I switched majors to actually animal science. And when I started taking these livestock classes, I thought, wow, this is where I want to be. And then another light bulb came on that maybe I want to be a teacher. I want to be an ag teacher. And at the time, I didn't realize that there were no female ag teachers out there. See, when I was in high school, it was in the era that girls didn't take ag.
Well, no.
Right.
Okay,
No.
and so I didn't have the opportunity to take ag, and but when I got into college, it still wasn't the thing for have female ag teachers. So, but I did it anyway. You know, I grew up. Most people know me well enough. I grew up as a tomboy, and so I've always worked around guys. So I thought, you know, what's the difference? You know, it wasn't anything different to me to be among other male teachers or anything. So anyway, so I got my degree in ag education, and I got my first job over at Wapella, and stayed there 5 years, had a great time over there, and then, like I said, the position at Hartsburg opened up, which was closer to home. So I was able to, they hired me on, and I have heard some stories that that they took a great, I don't want to say, a large chance, I guess, you know, in hiring me.
A real leap of faith.
A real leap of faith. There we go. That how long was I going to stick around? You know, would the community accept me? And how was I going to work with all these farm boys? You know, that type of thing. Well, I think it worked out okay.
Yes, it did.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But you mentioned a point here, and I want to really kind of hone in on, you said farm boys. Now, young ladies in school, in high school, are also, they get themselves involved in agriculture, particularly in the 4-H part of it. So farm boys, and to some extent, some of the ladies too.
There are really a lot of young ladies today in the program. If you look at next week is our state FFA convention at Springfield, and when you walk in there, you will see a lot of young ladies there dressed in blue.
Blue jackets,
Blue
FFA,
jackets, you
right.
bet. And
I bet you saw that ratio change dramatically in the 35 years you
Definitely.
were in
Well,
the teaching.
not only has the ratio of females coming into the program, but getting back to those farm boys, they're not there anymore either. Last year, 2012, for the most part, we graduated at Hartsburg, the last group of what I want to call farm kids, girls or boys, doesn't make any difference, and that was, I think, 5 of them. This year's graduating class has 0 farm kids. Next year's will have 2. This year's sophomores 1, freshmen 0. So, you know, and this is not just in Hartsburg-Emden, it's a trend that's continuing, you know, that we see all around, and not just in Illinois, but nationwide, because as your farms are getting larger, okay, that takes away families, you know, that could have some kids there, and so it's a trend that we're seeing. So
huge socioeconomic change.
Yes.
648-5510. Somebody out there might have some questions, or maybe some anecdotes, little stories or two they want to tell on or about Betsy. Just remember, it's a family station, folks.
yeah, keep it clean. Yeah.
Your undergraduate years, where were they?
That is a long story. As I tell my students, don't follow my path. When I was in high school, I was accepted to the U of I. You know, I was going to go into vet med, pre-vet anyway. Had a guidance counselor in high school. And, you know, not that, don't take anything away from my folks. You know, it was kind of my decision where I wanted to go, as long as it was in, for the most part, in state. And, again, I did not take ag in high school, so I didn't have the guidance of an ag teacher to help me out. Well, I ended up over at Eastern for 2 years. It was okay, but Eastern does not have an ag program, and while I was there, you know, I took a lot of biology classes, which has proven helpful to me in my career. I don't regret those at all. And so anyway, I stayed there at Eastern 2 years, and at the same time, I was still kind of thinking vet med. So I ended up applying to a lot of out-of-state schools that had vet programs. I ended up at Kansas State University.
Is that right?
So I stayed out there for 2.5 years, got my bachelor's in animal science there. That's where I decided that I wanted to be an ag teacher, but probably not in Kansas. So I decided to come back to Illinois, so I finished just a couple semesters up at Illinois State University, got my degree in ag education. I have my master's from the University of Illinois, and so I tell students, I said, don't follow what I did.
Yeah, but on each campus, you took away certain skills.
I did,
no question about that.
The biology, I'm just probably 6 hours short of being certified to teach biology if I wanted to. So, but those classes came in very handy. The livestock classes out at K-State, I loved them. I mean, I'm a livestock person.
Yeah.
And yet I'm over in Hartsburg-Emden where you can't find one if you wanted to.
Well, those days of,
they're gone.
There again, that's part of that socioeconomic change. It used to be that was a big thing here.
Right.
And our livestock shows at the county fair were just really very, very big events. Not so today. That's just the way it is. And the way it is also, Judith K. and Betsy, is we're supposed to take a commercial break some point in time between 8:15 and 10 o'clock. So go right ahead, Mr. Ash, if you're ready for the Switch the Switches. And we're right back live in the studios here at WLCN. Our guest this morning is Betsy Pech, retiring from, I was going to say that again, Betsy Pech. I kind of slurred over that last word. Sorry about that, Mrs. Pech. You've had a real remarkable career teaching youngsters over here at Hartsburg-Em. And we were talking about the size of farms and how the livestock programs have changed and diminished almost to virtually nothing as far as youngsters in agriculture are concerned. Old Will Rogers kind of said it best about a farmer. He said, the farmer has to be an optimist or he wouldn't still be a farmer. And that's certainly true. It was true then, and it's more so today. But the farms used to be 160, even some 80-acre farms, and people eked out an existence on that, if not a living. Mega farms now are the big thing today, so we've seen a huge change in that. That's an impact on the fact that ag students aren't as prevalent as they used to be because we don't have the smaller farms, and we have much larger farms, and so we don't have the youngsters that are there to be involved in the program.
They're not. Here's the thing. Agriculture today, in terms of career, is what I like to call the shining star. Mm-hmm. Okay? Several years ago when we were going through the recession, agriculture was still looking for students, for jobs. Their job market did not plummet or go to the basement. Uh-huh. And so in terms of students returning to the farm, a few of them will. But the careers out there in agriculture are very numerous, especially the crop science industry. I don't care what university I go to and I take students. There is usually someone there saying, we need students in crop science. There's came out about a year or so ago that by the year 2050 or something like that, our populations worldwide is going to increase to 9 billion people. Yeah, and right now we're at 7 billion. Okay, who's going to feed those people? And so, we need people in crop science. We need people in horticulture. The fruits and the vegetables, as well as again getting back to corn and soybeans and rice and cotton and all those types of foods and crops out there. So crop science is really the top end. So the point I'm trying to make is there are areas out there that if a student is interested in agriculture, there is a position for them.
Oh, yeah. And lucrative positions.
Yes, and that gets me to my position as an agriculture teacher. We have a shortage nationwide of students going into ag education.
Is that right?
I feel blessed that they found a person to take my spot, because there are positions here in Illinois that have been open for quite some time that still are looking for someone to fill that position. And so, and the reason I bring this up is because you say these other positions are lucrative, and that's what draws students away from ag education.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is the ultimate salary. They can get twice as much as a school teacher.
Sure.
And, which way would you go?
Yeah.
Okay? So, but, I feel, ag education programs in high school are important because we're kind of the foundation to, direct students, get them give them a foundation, because most of our students don't have ag backgrounds, don't have farm backgrounds. So it's our job to educate them, on corn, soybean production, livestock production, horticulture, leadership skills, whatever the case may be.
And that's a big part of FFA, isn't it?
Definitely.
The leadership skills. Why don't you address that for a moment?
We have a lot of events, activities in the FFA that help develop those skills, and it could be anything from what we call them career development events today, but some of us old timers still call them contests or competitions. And but they have to make they have to get up there and make judgments, okay, and those types of things on their own, maybe as a team. But and even a lot of people look at livestock judging. What do you learn off of that? You have to be able to decide. You pick an A, B, C, or D. And you have to be able to defend that. Okay, now, and so then we go from competitions like that. Then we could go to one of my favorites is ag issues, and this is one that back in 1998 They were just starting this particular competition, and basically what it amounts to is you pick a controversial issue, and you try to pick one that it affects your local area, okay? And then you present. You don't debate, but you present the pros and cons, okay? And then from there, after you've done your presentation, it can last up to 15 minutes, then the judges ask you questions. And that's the make or break of it. You have to know these issues very, very well to be able to get by the judges.
I've seen that demonstrated at Betsy has brought her students to Rotary more than once, and I've watched these youngsters, Judy and Jim. Those kids, they come prepared, and they get up there with good self-control. They're not nervous. They don't hum and haw. There's not a lot of ahs and ahs and so forth in there. They get up and they state their case, and they do it very, very well. And I sat there as I watched these before several times, thinking, what a great preparation for these youngsters as they move, whatever facet of life they moved into as they leave college or just high school in some cases. That stands them in very good stead to work with other people and to think themselves through a problem.
They have to, and we do a lot of preparation for that. It starts months ahead of, when the competition is. And, they have to research this topic area, and then the students pick a particular role. We decide what roles, they're going to play. One might be the moderator, somebody else might be a research person, whatever the case may be. And so they have to write their script. We practice and practice and practice, change,
and it shows.
Tweak it, whatever the case may be. But it has been very successful. I have seen a lot of students that people might scratch their head as to why they were chosen for the team, but we've seen them mature, blossom, build up their confidence, and it has worked wonders, and it's been very, very successful.
Those are things they need for their whole life. That's
Definitely.
not just
those are
high
life
school.
skills, absolutely.
I tell my freshmen, getting back to other things, we do some programs for the grade school kids, and of course high schoolers, they don't think that's a big deal. They're working with 6, 7, 8-year-olds, but I tell them, I say, you're developing your leadership skills, you're developing your public speaking skills, but you're doing it in an environment that's fairly easy for you, okay, because you're talking to little kids here. But I said, just doing that and then progressing to maybe older groups, you're developing skills, public speaking skills, leadership skills, confidence skills that will be with you for the rest of your life. So, as I tell my students, I said, not all of you will go into agriculture, but being involved in the FFA, you are developing skills that will be with you, again, for the rest of your life.
Are there FFA programs at all in bigger urban
Yes.
schools? There are. Because
Chicago has one.
That's interesting. Do you know anything about their program and what the thrust of it is? Because these skills that you're talking about would behoove anybody, anywhere.
Chicago, it's called the Chicago High School for Ag Science. And I'm going to say 20, maybe probably approaching 30 years that it's been in existence. It was established on the last piece of farm ground in Chicago.
Really?
And on the southern edge, I believe. And there was a school there that was used, as a school, but now it's strictly agriculture, and students have to apply to get into this school. And so there's kind of a waiting list, I guess you'd say, and it's my understanding that some students, are on the bus for an hour or maybe more just to get there. But it's a school that stresses agriculture, but they still have, English and math. They still have to take all those subjects as well. It was my understanding when it was first started, and I don't know if it's still that way today, but a lot of their subject areas had to focus, ag had to be their focus, even in an art class, okay, or a composition class, like essays had to focus on ag. They have a food science program there. With this farm ground that's there, they can raise, the fruits and the vegetables. I don't know if they have a farmer's market or not. I'm kind of out of the loop on it a little bit here. But Chicago has one, Philadelphia has one, I believe Kansas City has one, New York might have a school, but yes, the urban areas, oh yes, you'll find...
Interesting.
Yeah, you'll find agriculture. And one of the things about the Chicago High School for Ag Science is that you'd be surprised the number of students that come out of there and will go into some field of agriculture. We had a young man, and it's probably back in the 90s, a graduate of there. He was a state FFA, he was our state FFA president, and then became our national FFA president for that particular year. So, they bring out some good students out of that school.
Mrs. Pech, I would like to address livestock judging because I know nothing about that whatsoever, except kids get out and pass judgment on which is the best steer or heifer or whatever. 648-5510, by the way, somebody might have a question or comment for Mrs. Pech. We're honoring her today because her distinguished career and impact on the youngsters in our community. But back to the question I wanted to ask you, what is a livestock judging contest and the basic ground rules and so forth? I just kind of, it's an in-depth subject, so that would probably take 40 minutes to do that. But can you give us an oversight on that, please?
Well, livestock judging has probably been around as long as high school ag programs, since every farm had livestock. But typically a contest they'll have beef animals, they'll have hogs, and they'll have some sheep classes. And in the past 5-6 years, they've added a meat goat class now. But what it usually is, a class consists of 4 animals, okay, and they are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what you're looking definitely, probably 2 things. You're looking for the animal with the most muscle, because that's your meat. Okay, so you're looking at the animal, you're trying to find one with the most muscle and the least fat, because nobody eats fat anymore. And so those are the 2 primary things you're looking for. You're looking also for how well the animal walks. Bone structure is important, because you got to have bone to hold up that carcass, okay, to hold up that animal. If it's a female, you're looking for an animal that, especially a female you want to keep in your herd, you're looking for one that will make a good mother. Sometimes we have classes that they give you data, like in terms of past, say, ancestral data on that animal. And so a lot of data today is being kept, whether it's beef, cattle, hogs, or sheep. And so you'll look at data, did this calf's mother milk well? Okay, what was her birth weight? Okay, because I raise a few beef cows, and I don't like heavy birth weight calves because it makes calving difficult. So I'm looking for a bull that will sire low birth weight calves. And so that might be something that you would look at as well, on some data that's given to you. So in a nutshell, you're looking for animals. To me, the first thing I look for muscling. Okay, and then I go down the list on some other things. And so I that's how I pick them. And so you pick which one's going to be first, second, third, and fourth.
And then
you have to be a statistician, don't you?
A little bit, yeah.
But these youngsters, they make these selections, and then how are they judged as in a livestock judging contest? You've done very well over in this department. Year in and year out, we've done very, very well at Hartsburg-Emden. But you have people who judge the youngsters as they judge the livestock.
Each student has what we call judging cards. One card for each class. So I take my placings, I mark it on that card, make sure it's the right ring number and all that, and then I hand it in. And so a typical class will be worth 50 points. And so if you definitely want to get into the high 40s, well, you definitely would like a perfect 50, okay? But that's how, and then your points are added up at the end for every class. And then, I would say typically if you had a team of 5, the top 3 scores, the top 3 people on your team would go towards the team score. Okay, and so then that's how they select the final rankings of the teams.
How, in the terms of the Future Farmers Association, how relevant is that today? And I don't mean this in a negative way at all. I want to make it a positive spin on that. In relationship to the changes in the farming in our respective communities, as we alluded to earlier, there are fewer farms, and so fewer students that are involved in that basic part of agriculture. So FAA still is an integral part of the farm life of youngsters and city folks too. You have a lot of city students, particularly in the bigger schools, Springfield, Bloomington, whatever, who are FAA members. Can you speak to that just a minute, Betsy?
The FFA has changed to the point where we still concentrate on production agriculture, but we've seen the times change as well. And so we've had to upgrade our programs so that we can reach all students, okay, and in all career areas. So, like you said, I'm going to take horticulture, for instance. Horticulture could be you're raising your fruits and vegetables. It could be you become a florist, okay? Maybe you work in a greenhouse, okay? Maybe you are involved, and we always forget about this, but research, okay? I always tell my students, I said, there is somebody out there that is researching the better apple, the better rose. Students, we don't, and typical people don't think flowers, that people are buying today at the stores to put in around their house. Somebody out there is trying to improve on those. And so there are, the FFA has had to change to accommodate, the loss of the farm kids, because, and then to bring in those non-farm students, and, to accommodate their interest as well. So, we talked about veterinary medicine. There's many avenues for that besides just being a veterinarian. You got your veterinary technician. You might have the person that works behind the desk, the receptionist. They're just as important. What other areas? You've got your. Okay, here's an example. A couple years ago. Took my students on a tour. We were at a local crop research facility, and this gentleman said, in the next 5 years, my company, which is a major company, is going to hire an additional 5,000 people. Now, that could be people related in crop production, but he said it could also be accountants. It could be lawyers. It could be even medical people, because these places have to have nurses around, some health people in case of accidents or things of that nature. So it's not, when you think of some of these businesses, that you strictly have to be an ag degree? Not necessarily. You know, they need accountants. They need, like I said, they need lawyers for, you know, make sure everything's on the up and up. So we have, and through FFA, you know, we have tried to integrate those things into our program to just make it well-rounded.
Viable and current.
Yes.
There's nothing constant in the world but change, is there?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
You bet.
You mentioned when we first came in that your passion was ag, and I already knew that because I saw your license plate out there. It says HEFFA, Hartsburg-Emden FFA. That's your passion, isn't it?
That's my passion.
That
yes.
is. That's a good passion, and you've touched lots of lives.
I have thoroughly enjoyed my time in Hartsburg-Emden.
Well, that's been the secret to your success, however, enjoying what you do, and that spills over to the kids. The kids understand that. They pick up on that, and they know that Mrs. Pech is serious about this, but she's also going to be very helpful so that we can learn as we go
it's just
day.
You know, it's just since my own two daughters have kind of, I guess you say, left the nest, and I'm at school, and I'm not bragging here, but I'm at school at about 6 o'clock every morning.
About that for a minute.
Because I work better in the mornings, I guess you'd say, getting my lessons ready and those types of things.
You're one of those abominable morning people, aren't you?
Yes, I am. You know, and you know, I'm over there. I have no reason to stay at home, so I might as well be over there, you know, being productive and that type of thing. And but I just, you know, I've said it. I will say it over and over again. I just love my job.
In the time you've been there, I bet you'd had kids when you first started whose kids you've had.
Oh yeah, yep. It's been several years now that I, you know, finally starting to get students of former students in there.
That's right.
And you know, they you can say, yep, you're just a spitting image of your dad or your mom or something of that nature, you know.
Well, they can't pull the wool over your eyes because you know where they came from.
I'll tell stories on them.
That's a lucky student and a lucky teacher also that sees the next generation coming in as students, and the students are they're benefactors of the fact that their parents, or parent as the case may be, were one of your students, and then you get to see those former students, their productions come along, and you maybe to compare them to their parents as they went through.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. You know, we know as educators we shouldn't do that, but you know, it happens.
It's called human nature.
Yeah, pretty much so. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting, and for the most part, it's been good. You know, it's been good having these students come in that had their parents and that type of thing. It's been a good thing.
Now, when you take these students to contests around, geographically, how far out will you go?
You know, that's another thing I like about Hartsburg-Emden. I'm kind of right in the hole of the donut, and because we can go to Champaign, we'll be in Bloomington, over to Macomb, Springfield. The one place, well, when I say in my first teaching job, I did 2 or 3 times go clear to Carbondale, but
good poke.
Yeah, definitely. And but for the most part, I can stay, in a little over an hour, I can be where I want to be.
Right.
And whereas, if you're down in southern Illinois, northern Illinois, those poor people, 3, 4, maybe 5 hours to get.
Well, there's also an economic factor there because of the budgetary constraints that we experience in our schools today. Sending youngsters that far is a little more expensive.
That's right.
So if we can keep them in the backyard, so to speak, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
By the way, this gives me an opportunity, Judith and James, to mention the fact that Lincoln College has entered into a partnership with the University of Illinois. And that's going to be a good thing for a lot of youngsters to be able to come to Lincoln College for 2 years and take University of Illinois courses and then be able to just seg right into the University of Illinois Ag School as a junior. So
this was a program that actually was started at Parkland Community College. They call it the Parkland Pathway Program.
Yes.
And I have a couple former students that are in that program, and they take Parkland classes and maybe a class over on campus at U of I but they get to live at the U of I campus. They get to attend, it's just like they're a U of I student, only they're starting out at Parkland. So it's my understanding that the coordinator over there has expanded, offered this same program to, say, like Lincoln College and other community colleges to, again, students can take U of I classes. Now, it's also my understanding, because I got a letter from Lincoln College saying they're going to be online classes. They won't be like traveling over to Champaign, take a class, and come back. But, you'll get your prerequisites in locally, and then from there, boom, just jump right into, the U of I.
Well, the beautiful part of that, particularly here with those youngsters who go to Lincoln College, is in all candor, some folks are just really not prepared to go on a bigger campus right off of Lincoln, Illinois High School or Hartsburg-Emden or wherever. A lot of youngsters aren't prepared for that quantum leap to a larger campus. This segs into that in a great way, and they can take the classes as prescribed by the University of Illinois.
I have found today that students, a lot of students today, and I don't care what high school they come from, I don't think their maturity level is there yet for a four-year school, plus the expenses. And so I've been at the point the past several years where I push either community college or trade school, unless I absolutely think that student is mature enough to, head off to a four-year school. But I tell my students, I said, you need some type of an education today or a trade. And I said, if you think you can do otherwise, come back and check in with me and let me see how you're doing.
Point in that, because I have a grandson who was not college material, and I said, you have to have a skill. You've got to have yourself a trade. Pick one, we'll send you wherever. So he went down to MTI and he learned to be a welder. He's not been without work since.
That's right.
And not only that, but he's making very good wages.
That particular school, you're seeing your community colleges get back into the skills program. Lincoln Land Community College of Springfield 2 years ago opened their trades building. Can't recall what they particularly call it, but they have culinary arts. Fabulous program down there in culinary arts. Auto repair, auto body, welding, HVAC, you name it. And you're seeing, to me, community college were first started for that. And then they got out of that business because of expenses and things like that. Well, now they're back into it again.
Right.
So the trades are something that if you don't think you're on an associate's degree or a 4-year, there's lots of trades around.
Oh gosh, yes, and they're invaluable. If in this kind of weather, if your air conditioning goes on the fritz, you're going to be darn happy to see an HVAC person.
You bet. Yep.
Well, our guest this morning has been Betsy Pech, retiring teacher at Hartsburg-Emden High School. We salute you, Mrs. Pech, for your career, for what you've been able to impact and impart to the students under your tutelage. You've had a great impact on a lot of kids. They're the better for having been your students. They're going to have a roast for Mrs. Pech. The date on that, my dear?
June 22nd.
June 20th. It's going to be at Hartsburg?
At the Emden Community House. I'm calling it a roast. I don't know what the other people are calling it, but
well, we appreciate your being with us. I did find a quote about agriculture, and heaven only knows where this came from, way back probably in the early ages. But it simply said, and it sure is true, the discovery of agriculture was the first big step toward a civilized life.
Yep.
Thank you very much for Viewpoint. Thank you, Betsy Pech, for what you've done.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.